Okay, so the first thing I think about when getting my line art together is how I'm going to do that, whether I'm going to use the projector, whether I'm going to use a printout, or whether I'm going to use a sort of grid method and freehand it. I've decided for ease to use my projector here. So the first thing I do is I set the projector roughly up and then I hook it up to my phone. I've got an iPhone and it automatically will project whatever's on the iPhone. So I'm in my photo, so it's going to show the photo here, and then I can manipulate this. I can zoom in if I want to. So this would work well if I wanted a sort of tight crop here. It's actually a bit small. So before I start tweaking and getting the keystone and everything, getting it completely perfect in terms of level for it being lined up, no distortion, I'm going to get it to the right height. So I need to manipulate the projector. I need to move it up so that it's showing more of this photo, the extent of this photo, without me having to zoom in. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do, is move the projector up so it's bigger on this surface, and then I'm going to line it up. So this is the projector as it is set up at the minute. I've got it roughly level here. Again, I do this before I start manipulating the keystone and making any finer adjustments. I get it roughly level. You can see it's projecting everything that's on my phone, so it's showing what's on my phone screen at the moment. And then I've got, here's behind the scenes, I've got this video camera here working, which is pretty nifty. So what I'm going to do is actually lift this arm, and I can't do that with holding this camera, so I'm going to have to close this down and move it up. So I've got this arm here. It's got these pivot joints here and here. I'm just going to tweak those and move it up a bit. So I've got the projector now to roughly the height that I want. The photo here is a little bit small still, but I'm going to manipulate it in the viewfinder of the phone. So what I've decided that I want is, I'm not sure, I'm still debating whether to include the net or not, but what I want is to get rid of some of the roots down here, some of this grass down here. I want to come closer in to my daughter on the swing. I think I want her in the bottom third of this image here. I want to keep the rope up the top. I really like the tree and the light hitting that tree there as well. So I think that's the size that I want to go for. So this is about 12 inches, which will work out nicely. It's 10 by 12 at the moment. So I do have the option afterwards to sort of crop it into a 9 by 12 if I wanted to, which is more of a standard size. But because this is a for me piece, what I'll probably do is frame it as is. So I think that's the level the detail that I want, the size that I want. My daughter's face is a little bit small, but I have worked with small imagery before. I could go a little bit bigger. I'm just thinking whether I want to go a little bit higher on this or not. So that will give me more options to crop it in. What do we think? I think she still feels a little bit small here. I wanted some of the detail in that rope as well. It's about what's going to be most enjoyable for me, I think. And as much as it pains me to say, I think I'm going to go higher. So I want to go bigger, so I think I might take it a little bit higher so she's a little bit bigger in there. But I'm missing some of this detail here. So 2 options. I could be lazy and just capture this line art here. That might work. And just extend it as I go, as I draw. So I'm missing out the roots here. Let's bring in the surface that I'm working on. Okay, so in order to fit comfortably on that surface, we're coming down to here anyway. Okay. So I wanted to play around with the Strathmore Bristol vellum surface. So I think that is going to be my controlling factor. Let's see again if I'm back to the 12 again. Okay. I think that's going to be decision made then. I'm going to go with that and start drawing the line art. So, move my phone out of the way. Move the glassine paper out of the way. I've got some spare glassine to bring in to rest my hand on as I'm doing the line art. And I've got some sharp pencils here. They're a bit too sharp, so I'm just going to dull the edge. You can hear it pop off the end there. I'm going to start super light. I've found over time that I quite like going in with a colour that matches roughly the colour that I'll be using later on. So I'm using a warm grey, a nougat here. So really sort of sketchy strokes. It's a tree. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly how it is in real life. I'll put all these bumps and things on later when I'm drawing it. The last time I drew a tree, I found that I was trying to copy the reference photo maybe a little bit too much, and I was spending a little bit too much time trying to match up my line art. So as fun as it is to map in some of these darker areas as a guide for later, what happens is unless you match in where the darks and lights start and stop, you don't know whether you've done it on the sort of left hand edge here or the right hand edge, and you spend all your time trying to match things up instead of drawing and worrying about it. So I am trying to pull back a little bit on my line art. I do want to capture some of these features here though, in terms of where the trunk is. I'm still not sure about the net, because it's a little bit out of context for the rest of it. I know that there's a sort of river that goes around the back here, but because that's not in the photo itself, to be honest, it's not a key part of the memory for me either. So I'm certainly going to leave it out for now. I'm not going to copy that into the line art. You can see I'm just doing really rough sketches, and if I lose myself, I'm kind of covering the light coming down temporarily. So I'm going to run the outside of the rope, inside of the rope there, side. I don't think I've not got this top branch here. All the time, I'm not really worried about where the tree is, but I know that what will happen is when I start to draw it, I'll try and match it up to the reference photo, and unless my line art is capturing the key features. I spend so much time trying to sort of mentally match things up that I'm taking away some of the joy. So I want to get as quickly into the fun of this, or as quick into that fun as possible. So I'll take the end extent of that there, and down there, over here, and over here. Not necessarily going to be able to match that up terribly well if this battery dies on me, because I've zoomed in on my phone. I've got an sort of a dynamic element to it, even though everything else is all set up. So I'm working relatively quickly. Okay, I'm still using the brown because I'm going over some quite dark areas. Super light pressure, because the pigment actually comes out of this really easily, of this surface, the Strathmore Vellum 500. Okay, so I'm going to switch now. I've got a cold grey here. Again, super light pressure. I'm being really careful with this one because it is quite sharp. Doing a really gentle outline. Again, my line arts are never really that detailed. It's about saving me time later on, figuring out where things go. And I think for me especially, if I do a too detailed line art, I spend all my time working out what the line art's supposed to be telling me. I'm going to get a ruler actually here for that bit. So I've got this handy wooden ruler, which is really nice. It's strengthened in the middle with a bit of metal, but it's gentler on the paper. Okay, so again, don't worry about this too much. I'm not going to use the ruler here. I might do, bearing in mind that there's a bit of, so the angle changes where she's holding it, but it will be straight down to her hand. Super light pressure. In fact, it may not show up, in which case I'm not too worried. The angle changes a little bit because of that knot, so I'll go up to the knot and then beyond it. Super light pressure. I'm not going to worry about marking in the clouds or the leaves. What I will do is the top of these trees. Clouds are so transient, it really doesn't matter about doing the line art with it, and it's going to take away some of the joy if I try and copy it too exactly. Got a tree there I can put in later. Let's go for a slightly darker one here. Again, just being really sketchy here. I'm using the side of my pencil really just to get the angle of this change in the vegetation. Bit of a patch there and that. This is nice. This is a strong shadow coming in. I want to make sure that I remember to include that. And then there's some sort of footsteps in the mud down here. They can be a little bit looser. There's a shadow from the tree, sort of comes over there, and that is a nice bright patch of grass. So I'm going to draw around that. And again around there. Now for this bit on the horizon there, I'm thinking I might go in straight away with my green. In fact, I'm going to use a spring green. Sketch that in there, just to make sure that I remember to keep that quite bright. Again, I can use that is quite straight. Changed my mind again, I've chickened out of using brightest green. I'll put a bit of this cream and ivory Pablo in there. Light pressure. It's not really showing up. I don't want to go too bright in the background there. So this is a light green Pablo. Some patches of light green there. So I've got the light on, I might as well mark out some other bits. Okay, I've got some of the tree. Let's just get a bit of that shadow in. Very sort of sketchy there. There we go. Coming down there, and then this coming down there like that. Ah, my daughter, yeah. Okay. So it's quite a cool green in the grass, so I've picked up a cool grey, and rather than drawing the pink of her t-shirt, I'm drawing more the background of the grass. And again, drawing outside of the hat. Drawing the grass behind the hat rather than the hat itself. Now, this is going to be a tricky bit, so I put in roughly the position of some of those features, but this is really a matter of those tiny changes when I actually come around to drawing that bit. Again, round up hands there. It's just going to be a matter of tiny tweaks taken out when I get round to drawing it. So roughly in place there. Let's just put the rough bits of the grass in there. Capture where these big changes are in the grass, because you can sort of see dark shadowy bit there, then the top of the leaves of the reeds, it's more like grasses by the riverbank, so big, thick, vibrant grass. I think I'm going to draw the rest as I go.